Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Power Bomb Weekly. First, from Bremerton, via the backwoods of West Virginia and the oil fields of Texas, he is the Sultan of Sarcasm. He agrees with everything that Uncle Dave Meltzer says, Michael Burdett. And his sparring partner from Paulsbo, via the mean streets of Rhode Island and the cornfields of Nebraska, he is the king of useless knowledge and an honorary member of the Kiss Vince's Ass Club, Joey Marcello.
And welcome to Powerbomb Weekly Show number dos.
Hello, everybody. Real quick before we get started, thank you for everybody who's going to join in and watch tonight live. We do understand that there is a very important thing happening this evening. We have already set up and agreed that we will not be discussing any of that, but if any result or anything does come in, we will announce it here on the show and leave it at that and continue on.
We, believe it or not, can disagree on our politics and still be friends.
That might change after we talk about some of the things of wrestling that happened this week. And
politics and wrestling are different.
It might be true. Yeah.
All right, so Mike, what have you actually watched? So that when we go through and we talk about stuff, what have you actually watched?
Okay, so real quick, a lot of what I've actually been watching is a lot of the older stuff, a lot of the YouTube clips and things like that. We'll talk about here in a couple minutes. One of a great Southern wrestling legends, Tracy Smothers, passed away last week. I'll have a couple things I want to talk about him. So I've been watching some of the old Tracy Smothers Smoky Mountain Wrestling matches. For current product, I did sit down. I did watch Halloween Havoc.
Which was amazing.
It was something. I got my network and subscription, everything re-upped. I had been out of it. One of the main reasons, guys, that I haven't gotten a lot of the more modern stuff and kind of only talk about clips that I've seen is because several years ago, we got rid of cable at the house and did the full streaming service thing, thinking that would save us money, and then realized that there's like 50 streaming services that we're all subscribed to throughout the house. So Joseph was nice enough to send me some information and links on where I can actually watch some of this free TV wrestling, such as AEW, which I will try and make a concentrated effort to watch. I did watch a couple clips from AEW, including one that we will talk about that does pertain to the show. The bulk of what I did watch was Halloween Havoc, because I just watched that last night. I did not get to see Raw before I came over.
All right, well, I actually have some clips that I will show you, and if you are a fan of wrestling and you've watched some wrestling, you've probably seen some of these clips. And if you haven't, you will see them because as I was showing him on the pre-show, when these things go to YouTube, and give me about 2 weeks, and they will be on YouTube. And then right here, this dead space right here is actually going to be where some graphics are going to be placed. Some videos are going to be placed until, Vince yanks them from me, but I am getting them off of YouTube, which is public domain, so we should be okay. At least until he notices a ragtag show that doesn't have very many.
We're going to be the one. I think we're going to be the one that gets hit with cease and desist.
Yeah, and I will hang that on my wall with pride.
It'll be like the restraining order that Cornette has for Vince Russo just hanging on the wall.
So I actually, funny is, I was in the Navy. So for those that don't know, I'm retired Navy, and I am a retired Navy cook. And if you don't know, speaking of politics in the White House, Navy cooks cook for the White House. Yes. I actually have a rejection letter from the White House when I applied to be a White House cook.
And they said, no. Okay.
I was too young and early in my career. So, because it is tonight is the election, we decided we were going to do something more fun. We were going to talk about funny things, comedy and wrestling. Does comedy need to be in wrestling? Does it work? When doesn't work? So we're going to start the show with comedy, and then we're going to transition to the shows that we watched, and then I'll fill in some other things. So I have a list of wrestlers here.
All right.
That I did some online research. These are wrestlers that people have said either were or were not funny wrestlers or comedians. So I'm going to go from the bottom up because some of them, I don't like the way some polls they go. Like they give you number one at the top. And I always think it should go 10-1, but most of the things go 1 to 10.
Speaking of polls, check out our polls on our page because we had a lot of this stuff up throughout the week. And typically what we're going to talk about is going to have a poll of some sort on our Facebook page, so please make sure to vote so that way we can maybe address that topic, or if you have questions or comments, we'll bring it up here on the show.
Right. And he did not see this list before he got here. Some of the things that were on the poll are on the list, so we're just going to go right into it. So, funny or not, yes or no, and why or why not?
Okay.
DX.
I would say not funny, not meant to be funny, but able to be funny.
Okay.
I think they were. What they did was hilarious. It was raunchy, especially the early stuff with Michaels jumping up and pointing to the crotch and the sausage and everything like that. I think they were really great when they did that and when they had an edge to push. And honestly, I kind of liked it when Michaels left at WrestleMania and Triple H basically said, "You're out, you're done, I'm taking over." I loved all that. The newer stuff where they have since come back.
Horrible.
And it's, the fight that they had with the lettuce and the soup kitchen and all that stuff from a while back was absolutely terrible, and they did not do that.
When Shawn Michaels was drop kicking, super kicking everybody.
What was that the one where
they were trying to get him to come back?
He was poor.
Yeah.
The whole thing was he was poor, and everybody knows that's BS because Vince has secretly been paying him what was it that came out? Was it like $20,000 a week for the last 10 years or something to not wrestle? So yeah, very, very bad stuff. But honestly, DX, I would say funny, but shouldn't have been a comedy act.
I think the funniest thing they ever did which was on our poll, was when they made fun of the corporation.
Yes, absolutely. It probably doesn't age well. Blackface is never really something that should be funny or done. But Mizark Henry and the other guy that they had doing Owen was it's classic stuff. It is absolutely great. And yeah, to an extent they did rip it off from the NWO Horseman parody, but it was hilarious. That is one of the funniest things in wrestling you ever watched.
Okay. I keep bumping this, so I moved away. Gillberg or the modern day Gillberg Ellsworth?
Gillberg was not funny. You should not take the piss out of your number one, in my opinion. And no, they shouldn't have done that.
He wasn't. He was a parody of Goldberg who was on WCW.
Yes, on WCW.
But Gillberg... Oh, that's right. Gillberg was on WCW.
Yes, they should not have done that, which is why Goldberg refused to do the program with Jericho, because he's making fun of him. And he's a nice guy. And obviously we talked last week about the turtle thing that happened, which is hilarious. I hope everyone who watched the show went and watched the Ninja Turtle WWF match that he's in. Ellsworth, he grew on me. He really did.
Apparently he was a champion in his own wrestling tournament.
Yes. Well, of course, if you own the promotion, you got to be champion, right?
I mean, he got Braun Strowman over.
He did. And honestly, I like, what was it, Camilla? Was it Camilla Carmella that was he was the cuck to, essentially? That was amazing. I loved it. And I liked him with Styles. And I liked that Styles did not break his neck on the Styles Clash that Ellsworth kind of screwed up. So, yeah, I thought Ellsworth was fine.
The Blue Meanie.
I like Meanie. I've met Meanie a couple times. He works. Honestly, he does. Everything else around him that happened after ECW, though...
we're just talking the comedy aspect.
Just the comedy aspect of what he did. I thought the Blue World Order was funny, man. And that is...
The Job Squad.
The Job Squad. That's taking the piss out of something done properly, I thought. That was very good.
The Rock and Sock connection.
I mean, it's classic.
I think it got old fast.
It did get old fast.
This Is Your Life? Awesome.
This Is Your Life is the highest rated segment in all of professional wrestling history. If I remember correctly, it pulled a 9.2 million viewership or something. It is one of the single most watched segments in all of wrestling. I hate that Vince Russo can claim that he's a part of that because he's the one who wrote it, from what I understand. But This Is Your Life is excellent. And Rock and Sock was fine every now and then when they pair him up. I liked when he was trying to convince The Rock to be his buddy.
Right, yeah. Well, Mick Foley is comedy genius.
Yes.
He has a great comedy show.
And he does a great comedy show. We've seen his comedy show.
We're going to talk about that another time.
Yeah. I promise you, it's coming and it is gold.
This is kind of a no-brainer, but Jericho.
Jericho's like DX. He can be funny, but he shouldn't be. The funniest thing I think Jericho ever did is the WCW, the list. He's in the Rival with Dean Malenko. This is a great clip. Go watch it. Dean Malenko is the man of 1,001 holds. So Jericho is the man of 1,002 holds. And during the skit, it's hilarious because he reads off a move and then armbar. So, Scorpion Deathlock, armbar, headlock, armbar. And it went on through a commercial break. And then he comes back and he's still doing it. And the boos are great. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen him do. What he does now is not very funny at all. No.
We're going to talk about him on segments as opposed to just as fun. Kurt Angle. Remember, we're just talking about the wrestlers.
Kurt Angle can be funny.
He should never have been funny.
I
don't think he ever. None of the stuff of him being funny was funny.
I like
the milk truck. Maybe
the milk truck was funny, but everybody's been pushed into Austin's beer truck maneuver before,
right?
And I don't know. Kurt should not be funny. I agree. He can be, and I think he can. I think he naturally can be funny.
Was he ever funny in TNA? Did he ever try to be funny in TNA?
They tried to do stuff with him in TNA that was awful.
Did they actually try to do the comedy thing?
They tried to do comedy with him. They tried to do a bunch of stuff with him that was just not done very well. I feel really bad for Kurt's legacy for TNA because honestly, he had probably some of the best matches of his career in TNA. He was still very hurt, very broken, and still doing moonsaults off the top of the cage to the floor, which was absolutely insane to watch. The man is a machine when it really comes to what he can do, and the amount of pain that this gentleman can take is beyond anything I think anybody could really understand unless their own body's been through it. But no, he shouldn't be a comedy act.
So he interesting. So side note, TNA is another reason that we decided to do this show because he'll always ask me, hey, when we meet at the store, hey, do you remember on TNA when? And I would didn't watch TNA. I skipped all of TNA as we talked about last week. So there's going to be some retrospects of TNA and stuff like that. So, Miz Dow.
I hate the Miz.
That's not the Miz though.
My vision is skewed because of my hatred of the Miz, and
you're wrong. You're wrong. But so Damien Sandow,
who was good, but he reminded me of he
became the Miz's stunt partner.
Yeah.
And then in Impact, he became this really weird valet with Spud.
Yes. He was like Dean Douglas to an extent. It was their next try at being Dean Douglas, which is kind of like Lanny the Genius, honestly. And no, I did not like them. I did not think they were funny. I thought Morrison and Miz was funnier than Sandow and Miz.
Okay. I'm going to skip him because we're going to get back to him later. We're definitely going to skip him. There's a reason. There's some people that I know are going to get a lot more conversation out of. Charlie Haas. Apparently he would parody, and then they did the Billy and Chuck thing. Okay,
no,
agree
Haas,
was stupid.
And another one of those guys, Southern talent, met Haas a couple times. God, he's really good. And
he was great with Shelton Benjamin.
Him and Benjamin was amazing. I mean, those are some of the best matches you'll see. And I like Haas, and no, he shouldn't have been in that. He really shouldn't have been.
Brodus Clay. The Funkasaurus.
Now, some people might remember they were running promos for about 4 weeks of Brodus. And he was the beast from the East. He was the monster to destroy the end times were coming and all this stuff, right? And then I guess he screwed up and sent out a bad tweet. So the next week or whatever, when he debuted, he had dancing Funkadactyls, and
I believe he also missed a move with Cena that almost hurt Cena.
Oh, okay. I was not aware of that. Brodus is in a weird spot. I liked the recycled theme music too. It was. He was funny. All right, I'll admit it. He was funny. And
it brought us
Naomi's amazing. And the Funkadactyl stuff was funny. It's just, if you're gonna do it, it needs to be at the bottom of the card, not the
Yeah.
upper part.
I was not. I've seen these people. I've never watched them wrestle. The Spirit Squad. I think the only thing that came out of that was Dolph Ziggler, but
Well, Kenny Dykstra was good.
oh yeah, Kenny.
A couple of the other guys that were there were those.
They were supposed to be funny though, right?
I don't know what the fuck they were supposed to be. There's been a lot of people talk about this, that just destroyed Five Guys' careers. It took Dolph a very, very long time to come back. Dykstra was the one that they were really trying to push because he had that crazy big leg drop move that he could do off the top rope. I mean, the dude could get as high as RVD coming off the top. And that, yeah, the Spirit Squad did not need to happen. It was not funny. They should not have taken those guys who were that talented to do that. And yeah,
All right.
no.
So I guess I could have added this. I forgot. How about the Mean Street Posse? Yeah, no. Perry Saturn. Moppy.
Should not have happened.
No.
It was not funny. It wasn't funny. It wasn't good. I love Perry. I
hated what happened. Perry Saturn was one of the most amazing WCW wrestlers.
Yes, he was great in ECW with them. With
him and Malenko would put on a clinic together when they were with each other or when they would wrestle each other. Malenko, and honestly, if you look at WCW back in the Monday Night Wars, technical wrestlers, Benoit, Malenko, Saturn, and Jericho.
Yeah.
That
show was blocked to showcase talent and
Right.
then feed into the rest of the main show.
Right.
And then when
Bischoff
the
was
main show overtook, it really hurt it. So yeah, Bischoff was great with how he laid that out. But Saturn should not have been a comedy act. That happened real quick. A couple little side tidbits on that. One, Saturn shot on a guy who screwed up a move. It happened on WWF Heat, I believe. You can watch the clip on YouTube. It's like Perry Saturn beats the shit out of a job guy, right? And he messes up a move and kind of dumps Saturn on his head when he goes to do a hip toss. And Saturn just gets up and beats the crap out of this dude and kicks him in the guts and throws him outside of the ring and just basically puts the boots to him. And I guess when he got back in the back, they just went off on him and was like, you cannot do that type of stuff here. Saturn also did have some drug issues that have become very public in the last couple of years. It's one of the main reasons that we lost track of him for a long time. He was homeless for a little while. He also is a ex-Army Ranger, if I remember correctly.
Right.
He stopped a woman from being assaulted, which led to him being shot multiple times, including, I believe, once in the neck. Yes, I think he got shot in the arm, in the body, and maybe in the neck or something. So he went through a lot of extensive surgery, and because of that, he had nerve damage and some other things with I believe led him down a meth addiction, and he had a lot of problems with him. But Saturn had come back in the last couple of years, and he was kind of wrestling this fun, homeless kind of guy. He's got all of his big, you remember the little spotty tattoos he has? He's got these big tribals going all the way up his arms now, covering all that stuff up to cover up the scars and everything.
I have
great
breaking
stuff.
news.
What's up?
We're international. We've got a viewer from Japan.
Welcome!
My cousin who just got sent to Japan is watching from Japan, so we're international.
Awesome, man. High five to that. Thank you very much for joining us overseas, man. What time is it there? Feel free to throw it in the comments, man. What time is it?
It'll take about 30 seconds before we see that answer.
All right.
The thing I hated the most about Patty Saturn.
Pitter patter?
Perry Saturn's comedy is they portrayed it as a brain injury. You remember?
Yes, I do.
He got dropped on his head, and then they were like, he's wrestling a mop because he's got a brain injury.
Yes, and then they did the thing where they threw Moppy in the wood chipper, which was bad. Well, they did some stuff with that with Saturn in WCW.
Right.
And that was because Marilyn Manson was coming up really big at that time in 97, 98, 99. Well, the reason for that is I remember the pay-per-view where they were talking about what was Saturn going to do. Saturn had gone crazy and all this stuff, and he was going to be dressing and all this stuff, and he might show up in drag, and he might do this and that. And that was the big thing, is it was like, oh my God, he's going further than Manson could possibly go. And that was the big tie-in, is that they were trying to get that goth rocker genre that kind of broke out in that 96, 97 time frame when Manson was really big. So Saturn was always wrestling in like fishnets and makeup and like choker collars and stuff.
So apparently it's 2 p.m. on tomorrow.
All right. Well,
hey, who won the election?
Past via the future.
Yeah, you're in the future. Who won the election? Okay, so now we're gonna go on to some good ones. I think that we're gonna have some back and forth on this one.
All right.
Colt Cabana.
I still like Colt.
He's
I don't think he should have a place in wrestling as comedy. I don't find him very funny.
It's his exaggeration, I think, that he does. Like he's doing it in AEW too.
Yeah, he over facializes, he overdoes everything, and when you do that, the main thing for comedy, and I wanted to save this to a little bit later, but it works for Colt in this sense. Comedy is the hardest thing to do, from what I understand, because it's something that can't be forced. It has to be generic. It has to happen. People I know that have done, comedy troupes and things like that, or like acting classes and stuff. It's the hardest thing to pick up and learn because you either have it or you don't. And when you don't, you always do things like that. And that's what Colt does. And it's just, he might be funny in his real life on his radio show. He's very funny, but in the ring, he's not very funny.
The Hurricane.
I love Shane Helms. Shane, I love you to death. Shane is the opposite of Colt. He gets it. He's funny. His timing is great. His facials are great. I love Hurricane. I love Shane to death. I loved his radio show. I was actually sitting down waiting to watch the radio show when he had his car wreck or his motorcycle injury that almost killed him. I love Shane. I love him to death. I'm glad that he did not die and he healed up and he's back working. He's an agent for WWF right now, isn't he?
Yeah.
All right.
We're going to talk about Shane in a minute. So, what about with Rosie being the superhero in training? Yeah, okay. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah,
all right.
That hurts.
So, I'm going to leave the top two for some, because I know that there's going to be some big conversations about the last two. So, we're going to go into the top four. Top four. Santino Marella.
Fuck you. You can censor this out later. Fuck you, Santino.
He was funny.
No, he was not.
He was funny.
I apologize for that. I had to send a quick text message.
No, he was funny.
No,
now,
he wasn't.
So, Santino himself was funny. The Santina Marella was horrible, where he would wrestle Beth Phoenix and all that and try to be what it was.
None of that was good. It shouldn't have been produced. It shouldn't have happened. He shouldn't have had a job to begin with. He was not good in the ring. He was not funny. Everything they did with him was terrible. It went on for way too long. The only reason he had a job is because Jim Cornette slapped him 17 times while he was a... Listen to Cornette talk about it. The man wasn't even a contracted wrestler. He was actually paying them to come to wrestling school at OVW. He made a huge mistake that should have got him kicked out of the wrestling business because Cornette just lost his shit on him and slapped him half a dozen times in the back room. He got a job basically for life at the WWE, so he didn't sue them. And then he wrestled until he got hurt. And I hate to say it, I'm glad that he can never step foot in the ring again because he was awful. He wasn't good at all. People talk about Cena's 5 moves of doom. That dude had 2 moves. He had a hip toss and he had that.
Tito's funny.
Nope.
I don't have anything like prepped to state my case, other than I loved Santino Marella.
Nope.
All right.
The unibrow when they.
Okay.
I honestly think with that, the stuff that some of they did, especially with the Santina and the unibrow, and I'm sorry to pull back for a minute, but I honestly think that they were trying to make him quit and gave him some of the worst stuff I've ever seen in my life. I talked about it last week. Him and Kozlov having tea in the UK is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life.
We're going to talk about that. Yeah,
and
we don't
I
have to
think
anymore.
they purposely tried to have him do the worst stuff they could to make him quit, so it was on him and not on them, and he just stayed around collecting their checks. So maybe he is smarter than what I give him credit for.
Okay. Orange Cassidy.
I mean, that's me, so I got to support that, right? I like him, I'm going to go against the grain of what I do. I like Orange Cassidy. I think he...
Is he funny? Is he funny? Is he being
Yes.
funny? When he gets announced from from wherever,
Whatever. Yeah,
weighing
Whatever.
whatever.
I like it. I think it's
You think
funny.
it's funny?
I think it is funny. I think it sets with him very well for his tone of what he's trying to do. I like Orange Cassidy. I think
I
he's
like
funny.
him as a wrestler. I think he's a great wrestler. I just
Great
don't
wrestler,
find-
and I think the character's that's what we're talking about. Is the character funny?
okay.
And I think he is for what he's funny. I don't think they need to
I think it's
do what they've done with him.
I think
but-
it's unintentionally funny.
okay. I can see
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I know you have a lot to say about this next wrestler that's on this list.
I didn't say enough about Santino. Okay.
He was listed as one of the unfunniest wrestlers.
Okay.
Eugene.
So, real quick, with
You
that.
taught me a lot about this a couple weeks ago.
All right. So Nicky Dinsmore is amazing. He is a great person. He is a great trainer.
So before he goes any further, for those that are not aware of Eugene, Eugene was portrayed as Eric Bischoff's, what's the politically correct way to put this? Mentally challenged,
mentally deficient, I believe, is
cousin.
the actual thing. Yes.
who, much like Doc Gallows when he was Festus, would just kind of be, well, no, actually, Dinsmore or Eugene had personality. He would just pretend, he would act like he was mentally challenged.
Yes.
He was very good at this. And then, but when he would get in the ring, he would emulate his favorite wrestlers, and he would drop Hulk Hogan leg drops. He would do the rock bottom. He would do pile drivers. He emulated his favorite wrestlers and would win because he was mentally challenged and a savant.
Yes. Or a lot of times, typically, what would happen is he would emulate Hogan. Hogan would come out and help him win. He would emulate Cena. Cena would come out and help him. They would do the high five thing for him. Should it have been portrayed? I don't know. That's a hard one. Should it have been portrayed as comedy? No, because you shouldn't make fun of people with handicaps.
This was the 90s. Times were different.
This was the 2000s. This was the mid 2000s when people should have known better. Again, Nick is great. Nick was the centerpiece workhorse for OVW, and he was absolutely amazing. He has actually trained a couple people from back home that I know. Nick is a great talent. He's a wealth of knowledge in the wrestling business for how to do things. He's a technical master when he gets in the ring for it. The character that they gave him was what he just said it was. It was a mentally deficient person who just was an amazing wrestler. Shouldn't have been played as comedy, but I don't know. That's really a hard one.
But whose idea was it?
I don't know whose idea.
I thought I'd read, or you had told me that it was actually his idea.
I don't know if it was his idea or not. I don't remember that. We might have to look that up here in a few, or maybe after the show we'll post something on it. But I know that he kept up with that character after the fact because that is kind of what made his name for it. The big thing I would say with him is that he was just so natural in the ring for what he could do, and he was just very good. And it was really the thing that kind of strangled OVW for the longest time of, they had some of the best talent in the world coming up, many of which are long-term members of the WWE and other places in and around some of the wrestling business. And when they would get brought up to WWE, that's when they were just given these awful, awful gimmicks, and they just never recovered from that. I mean, they legitimately killed a lot of guys' careers and chased them out of business. And that should not have happened with him. If it was his idea, then he pulled it off spectacularly for what he was doing. Mm-hmm. And maybe to a point, it is good to have that type of representation in the ring to say, hey, look, this is a character, but you can do this.
Right.
If you have those issues, maybe you can do something like this in your own life. And if it's presented like that, it was done much better. Doing it as comedy, that's the one thing I did like with Eugene, was that he always got the one up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's the Hollywood movie style of it, of they always get the one up, and that's not always how life goes,
Right.
But overall, I liked him, and I like Nick Dinsmore as a person.
I think we cannot I do not feel we will disagree on this, but the number one comedy wrestler of all time and still going strong is R-Truth. The man made Brock Lesnar break.
For the first time ever, your 24/7, 48/7, 7-Eleven, I-95 South, and now Lexington, Kentucky, European TV champion is officially declaring the Royal Rumble.
R-Truth is in?
The bigger they come, the harder they fall. You may be a big man, but I know you will go flying over that top rope, Paul Heyman.
Oh, Heyman? What?
I'm not in the Royal Rumble match. You step into the Royal Rumble match, you're going face to face with Brock Lesnar. My bad. For the first time ever, the 24/7, 48/7, 7-Eleven, I-95 South, and Kentucky European TV champion is officially declaring the Royal Rumble match. You know what? I'm not in the Royal Rumble. I don't want Brock to take me to Sioux Falls City.
Yeah. You know, truth.
The I-95 24/7 East and West Church's Chicken Championship.
Oh, man, I like Truth. You know, Killings, when he first came in and did his stuff, was really good. Honestly, I bought him in early TNA as the champ. I mean, and the dude, how old is he now? 50?
He's real close to 50.
He's got to be close to 50, and he has still got an amazing physique on him. He can still go. I mean, he still does that twist in the ring, which is absolutely awesome.
He does the splits.
He still does that. You know, I do laugh, and I know we're way ahead of this, but I laughed when he had the rap that he would come to.
Oh, yeah.
And then, like, 10 years after the fact, when it was, like, topical, they had the Crunk song come in.
Right.
And then I think somebody finally told them what Crunk actually meant, so then he went back to the old song, like, a week later.
Right.
Like, that was really good.
Him and Carmella together were amazing.
Yeah. Him and Road Dogg, oh, my God.
When he was a heel against John Cena, and now, like, one of his big things now is when you start watching it, he'll always talk about his childhood hero, John Cena. It's like my high childhood Cena. It's like my childhood heroes. John Cena always says, "Never forget, never give up."
So one of the things that I understand is, and I know it's been talked about on a couple of the other, like the big name shows, like people who are there, like Steve Austin and stuff like that. Vince travels with R-Truth.
I would too.
He is his traveling buddy, from what I understand, because he just wants to laugh. And Vince is big on potty humor, and we all know this. He loves stuff like that. And I guess Truth and him are just bros, and it's about the weirdest thing you could possibly think of. I apologize for bumping the camera on the table, guys. But yeah, R-Truth, he's comedy gold. I love R-Truth, and because he can go. He's not just a joke. And I think that's the difference between what I'm saying with Santino and R-Truth, because it's almost the same character with the same line of stuff of what they've done. Santino wasn't very good. R-Truth is very good.
He got to work with Gronkowski. But yeah, he
Gronk, you broke my heart, man. You broke my heart when you took that deal, because I thought you were going to be I thought you were going to be the one,
football player that stays?
I thought you were going to be the one, man.
Was he going to be the next Steve Mongo McMichaels?
if we're going to talk about comedy and wrestling, we got to talk about Mongo because he was
He wasn't supposed to be
he
funny.
was not.
He was not funny. He was not
No.
supposed to be funny. He just couldn't wrestle a white
When-
pepper bag.
I think it was when Bischoff was like, he was great on the mic. I was like, the man could barely talk. He was not good.
All right, so those are the wrestlers that were listed as the top comedy wrestlers.
All right.
So, your thoughts on anything with Mae Young? Because that was supposed to be funny. I found it gross.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
They were victimizing this 80-year-old lady.
I'm not into age stuff like that for whatever they did for that. The birth to the hand thing is probably people who don't like or watch wrestling know about that.
Mark Henry talked about it at his induction speech a couple of years ago.
I mean, it is a piece of something that will live on.
Unfortunately.
Yes, it's very unfortunate that will live on. I will say watching that 90-year-old woman take a power bomb off the top of the stage with Bubba Ray was amazing. I like that Bubba Ray
Multiple
told the
times.
story that Vince basically came up to him and said, if you do anything that hurts that woman, your ass is gone. So Bubba protected her so well.
But made it look so
and made it
real.
look so brutal. And from what I understand, she was more than willing to do it.
Yeah.
She wanted to do it. She felt that she could go as much as she could when she was 20, when she was 80. So much love to that woman.
Yeah.
Her partner in crime, maybe not so much of a good lady.
All right, so any dance-off? Yeah.
The only reason, before I'm not going to segue into it, but Tracy Smothers, that we will talk about here in a little bit, he was known as a very terrible dancing character in the WWF at the time, back in the 90s. For the brief stint that he was there, he had this terrible character. I think it was named like Frankie G or something. He had a terrible dance that he did, and he kept doing that dance later on, and that was kind of not... Dance-off should never happen in the ring. When we watched... what was it? It was NXT. It was... what was the guy's name? You're killing me here with Dead Space. It was we sat down, we watched NXT in Seattle. It's the first match on the card. and they had
No
a
Way
dance, and
Jose.
they brought him, No Way Jose. They brought him up to the roster, and I was like, why does this dude have a job? I was like, why are we doing a dance off on match 1?
And it jumped up the crowd, though, didn't it?
No,
Yes.
no.
All right. He wrestled. Do you remember who he wrestled on that match?
He wrestled Bliss's. Wasn't it?
He wrestled Elias.
Was it Elias?
He wrestled Elias, and Elias
Wow.
whooped his ass.
Elias did, yeah.
Elias was good in NXT.
Elias was real good because wasn't Bliss at the ringside, or was that the match after?
It was the match after.
Okay, so tiny.
Yeah. So, a couple things real quick. Jeannie Crap Corn. Again, anything with Angle and the Sheriff was all horrible.
Suffering succotash with Roman. I talked about it last week. Hurt him really bad. That shouldn't have
Vince in
that
the
wasn't funny.
Vince in the hospital when Steve Austin hits him with the bedpan.
One of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. That is by far and away one of the most hilarious things I think I've ever seen.
So, Festival of Friendship. Jericho and Kevin Owens. The list. You've made it to
You just
the
made
list!
that.
That got big. Like,
It did.
everywhere.
I mean, yeah. I didn't like Jericho and Owens together. No, I didn't
did.
think it was. I like Owens, but at the same time I don't. I'm indifferent to Owens.
So we had, funniest This Is Your Life was The Rock. And
Yeah.
do you remember the worst segment ever presented on WWE TV? Was the
Was this the other one?
This was the Bailey This Is Your Life.
Bailey, This Is Your Life thing. Yes.
Most, like, it drew a negative rating.
Yeah, that was. I feel sorry for Bailey on that one.
What'd you think of Ted's wrestling room? When they had all the puppets.
Yeah.
And OK instead of Jim Ross. And
I thought it was fine. I mean, it was. It was meant again. It was meant to take a jab across, and that can be good, especially if your audience will get behind it. Like the Huckster and the Nacho Man.
Right.
That's funny.
Kane and Brian's therapy sessions. They were supposed to be funny.
No.
No.
Kane should never have a partner. I think they've proven that. I mean, the thing with X-Pac, everything else. I'm not talking about Taker.
Okay.
Taker and Kane as the Brothers of Destruction should be that. Kane should have never been put in that, much like they've done with Mark Henry and other things like that. And Big Show, it's like you can't go 3 years of being a joke to then go back to being an ass kicker. And that doesn't work.
Somebody put this in the comments during our poll. The Jericho Stephanie McMahon, where that was hilarious. Really,
Yes.
it's like the before and after pictures of her boobs, and
It seems like our little billionaire princess sure has grown over the last year. Well, in 2 specific places at least. Talk about foreign objects.
Yes, that was. And the sad thing is, I just have that feeling that Vince was like, talk about her boobies. Talk about the boob job. That's good shit right there, Chad. Yes, no. That was funny. I mean, poking fun of that. And again, that's Jericho. Jericho can be funny.
okay. My last 2 comedy skits or ongoing skits that we're going to talk about, and then we'll move on to the next topic. The Firefly Funhouse with the puppets and the Hux and the Hulk and the Vince McMahon puppet. And
Okay, so I remember when this happened. And this
you mean the
is
beginning?
way back to the beginning, okay? And I remember I was talking with him. This was, this would make a great internet radio show if we ever talked about this.
Right,
And so
right,
we
right.
did, yes. I was like, it's going to be, oh my God, what are they doing? This is the worst thing ever. And then it's going to be, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. And then it's going to be, oh my God, this has gone on for too long. And then it's going to be, he's into something else. We haven't made it to that point yet.
Which one?
Yes.
So it is hit or miss.
It is. It is hit or miss. Sometimes the thing with wrestling is they try to be funny by making jokes about wrestling that wrestling fans know. Like whenever somebody says the line, lines like, oh, he's not selling for me, or oh, this or that, kind of, wrestling jargon that people use. You
Right.
know? That's not funny because it's just wrestling jargon. It's
Right.
it's the fans. You're supposed to be entertaining, not so constantly referencing and bringing up things like, oh, this guy didn't sell for me, and Vince is doing this and stuff with the puppets. That's when it's not funny. It's funny when the puppets are doing stuff that make fun of stuff that they shouldn't be making fun of.
Like when the Vince McMahon puppet comes out and says, "You're not making me any money."
Yes, that is funny.
Or
That
when
is
they
very
bring up
funny.
Huskus Pig, which is clearly making fun of the fact that Vince
They
McMahon.
called him Husky Harris, and yes, that was very good.
So, my take on the whole Bray Wyatt thing is brilliant, but sometimes we get too much of a good thing. It shouldn't be a weekly thing. And when it's a small, slow it. Now, I'm really enjoying the new stuff, as I'm sure you are, because he's got a new play pal on it.
Yes.
And the outfits that she keeps wearing are very fun. And they're not scandalous. Like, they're adorable.
They are. I saw last night's one. I like that.
And
And it's the thing with Bray is, especially.
I can't believe he's got. Sorry, I'm going to cut you off.
Go ahead.
I cannot believe that he has had this character going as long as he has and still maintained. Like, if you were looking at it from like 0 to 100, he's maintained at 80.
Yeah.
He's not losing. They still show him as a powerhouse. They still show him. I mean, Bray loses matches.
Yes, I will
The
say
Demon
that
is not, or the Fiend.
him as this character, and I think this is, I agree with what you're getting at. Him as this character gives him the ability to go back and forth, go up and down on the card, to lose, to not lose, to have these different personas. He's the ultimate combination of Undertaker and Foley and a couple of these other guys that they've had in.
A lot of people are calling him the new Mick Foley because he's got 3 faces.
Yes, so they're combining a lot of that stuff to where he can float back and forth, and that is great for Bray, that he can go anywhere on the card at any time he wants. The segments, on the other hand, should not always be on the card, as you said, because they're running thin.
Mm-hmm.
They're very much running thin, and that probably needs to get scaled back a little bit. And maybe, I don't know, maybe lesser segments or things like that. And the thing is, I mean, the thing that destroyed it, and it shouldn't be there to begin with, is Seth Rollins burned the house down.
Randy Orton,
Sorry,
burned the house.
Randy Orton burned his house down, but Seth also burned the Firefly down when they were backstage, remember?
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, it doesn't
rebuilt
exist in a weird parallel world inside of Bray's mind that we're going into. It's just a spot in the backstage so anybody can go beat him up.
But when they go in there, it's like weird. I mean, how
It's meant
how
to
can
be
you,
entering into like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood or Pee Wee's Funhouse, you know?
but how can we not talk about that amazing match that was him against John Cena,
Which one?
where Cena wrestled with him?
You're talking about the WrestleMania one?
So anyway, we're gonna skip that.
Oh, yeah, because comedy and wrestling, once we get to Halloween Havoc, the other Hollywood-produced match that they did.
We're not going to talk about that yet.
Yeah.
Because we're probably going to agree on that then. And the last thing that I have written for comedy, we have talked about this off air we talked about this weeks and weeks ago when this actually happened. Actually, it's been over a year ago now. I think one of the funniest things that I've seen in recent memory, aside from all the yowie wowies and the craziness that Bray Wyatt is, it was the last match at the Broken Hardy compound before he left TNA.
Okay.
With Shane Helms, where he grabbed the shovel and he said something along the lines of, "This is how the three H's bury someone."
Yes, I haven't seen a burial like that since the man with 3 H's.
That's what it was.
Yes.
Yes. Even the man with 3 H's would be proud of the way we buried this young, promising talent.
You know,
And that was Shane Helms.
that was them, and that was Hardy, and the drone thing and stuff, and I'm not a fan of it. I like Matt and Jeff. I'm not a fan of that because that has I think that started the cascade into this pre-designed produced thing that they're doing, and I still want to believe that the heels and the face locker rooms are separate. People don't hang out, people don't do anything. If I'm there to, if I'm there to beat you up, to take your money, to take your job, to take your title, to take your woman, all of that stuff, like the old westerns of people coming into town and running off the sheriff, and then the sheriff has to go get a new gang and he has to come back in and take everything over. That's kind of what wrestling is. It's an old western style movie. When they are taking that and clearly showing, like with Hardy, with Abyss and all these other guys that were like being filmed in front of the Hardy compound and having matches and all this stuff, it just shows too much cooperation between the guys, and that takes away the mysticism of wrestling, I think.
Anytime they do
funny, yes, but I don't like it at all.
Anytime there's a segment where they're supposed to be somewhere in the, well, how did this camera get in here? Like when Randy Orton went into.
Are you talking about the night vision goggle thing he just
No.
did? Okay.
No. I'm talking about, well, yeah, that, or like when Randy Orton's house got attacked by the Giant. Like there were cameras in Randy Orton's house.
Well, I mean, a lot of that probably goes back to, the interview with Austin and them, where Austin charged through the house on Pillman, and they were in there shooting with Pillman and everything. They keep trying to recapture stuff like that for it. I mean, I liked that, as terrible as it was for TNA, and like I said, we have the discussion about why TNA was so bad is part of the creation of some of this, but I like that they just had the background camera people just filming stuff, and they would like move back and forth in and out, and a lot of that stuff was produced by Jason Hervey, and they were trying to do what they did with the Bischoff Hervey reality series, kind of shaky camera movements, things like that. The backstage is it's the other world, it's that negative zone where just things happen and we're just supposed to believe that it happens.
Right. All right. So to finish up the comedy,
it's like, yes, we have a thesis. Let's present our
So
findings.
to finish up the comedy thing, we're gonna talk about the AEW show real quick. Then we'll talk about your thing, and then we'll talk about WWE.
All right.